What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it's time for another look at the Wheel of Time. As it turns, man, here we go. It's our fantasy soap opera. It's back. Now, this is actually a very special thing. And so before we get into all this, though, do me a favor. Like, subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow organically and lets everybody know that you want to be part of the Know-It-All Nation. So, why is this so special? This is technically, not by time, because obviously the dates are a little different. This is technically the 2-year anniversary of the channel. If you go back far enough in the archives, you're going to find a video called, in fact, I'll put the title card right over here. You're going to find a video specifically called Wheel of Time Series Review. That's the very first review that this channel ever did, and it was for Season 1, way back in the day. Now, here we are at Season 2, and look, we've come a long way, baby.
Yes, we have.
So, all right, let's get into it, though. Wheel of Time, Season 2, series premiere, 3-episode series premiere. Review and minor recap coming up right now. Okay, so because there's so much, this would be literally an hour-long video, and I'll be honest, I don't know that anybody on the channel wants to watch an hour-long video, me talking about the Wheel of Time.
But just face!
Just story. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm gonna go over this briefly. So, go ahead.
Before you start.
Yeah.
I didn't read any of the 1,800 books that are about I understand it's a very long series. You said 12?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's about 12.
But they're big. They're big.
Long books.
Yeah.
Very detailed books. And I've never read any of them. He has.
I have.
And then we do know people that have read it as well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a very interesting take on how you look at it and how I'm looking at it.
That's fair.
So just because I haven't read it.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I need everybody to understand too, I'm not against what they're doing. It's just taking me a lot to swallow it. So the one thing I had to do really get used to this, and this is not me I'm not trying to bury the lead here or anything, is that we learned last season both in Brandon Sanderson's, he was the writer who replaced Robert Jordan after his untimely demise, and so he finished the series. So he was interviewed last season, and one of the things that he brought up was, you have to understand there's no way to condense. You can't do a season for every single thought and every single thing. You have to, if you did, the series would be 30 seasons long, which everyone's like, why not?
Why not?
It's expensive.
I mean, I'm like that. Well, let's be for real. Ever since this one ended last season, I've asked you at least twice a month.
You have. No, you have.
Ever since then, when's it coming back?
Yes. And so now, obviously, you line this up with things I may have said online about about Lord of the Rings. I'm not a big fan of their adaptation of it for Amazon. However, I am a fan of this one. So this season overall, so far, in 3 episodes, the reason they had to drop them is pretty simple. They have to set up very quickly where everyone is.
Right.
Now, that's good and bad. So we assumed that we would start something closer to where we left off and have to see kind of how they moved and traveled. They didn't. The series literally begins about 1 year later. 1 year after the events of season 1.
Yeah, just about 1 year later.
Yeah, because it's Beltane again.
Right.
And so at this point, in the series, we find out where all the characters are. Remember, at the very beginning of episode 1, everybody thinks Rand is dead because Moiraine has intimated that. She hasn't necessarily said that flat out, but she's intimated it.
Because, they can't lie.
Well,
he's just gone.
So and if you remember the end of last season, Ishamael, or the Dark One, working through Ishamael, had closed off Moiraine, had cut her off from the source. He specifically, I guess when it comes to the men who can channel, they call it gentling, and I think for women they call it stilling. So they stilled her, and he did it really quickly, whip of a hand, very fast. One of the things they talk about in the series, and I really appreciated, was just how powerful channelers were. See, because this season, back in the day, this season introduces us to the concept of the Forsaken. The Forsaken are the chosen of the Dark One. They are channelers who, back in the Breaking, so 3,000 plus years ago, they literally swept through and said, we're going to choose the Dark One over our own people. And he elevated them, gave them immortality, gave them a level of power that they didn't have before in terms of just sheer strength. But overall, the techniques they had and the weaves they had were very much a matter of how good they were. Mm-hmm. So he protects his male channelers from the Dark One, protects them from the taint of that's in the one power. So For those of you playing at home, the one power is what they call magic in this universe. It's there's a
like
source,
the Force.
kind of, except
But you
know
can
what it
like
is.
really.
But they call it the source. But no, it's there's two halves. There's a male and a female half, Satan and Sadar. And so it's one of those things where men channel their half, women channel their half, and neither the twain can see each other. So normally women can see other women channeling, men can see other men who can channel. It's a whole thing. And last season we got Logain, who was a false dragon, who ended up getting captured, and he gets marched through the town. Anyway, so where is everybody? Moiraine is recovering at Viren Sedai's estate with her sister, and her warders. Lan feels somewhat displaced by the whole thing because she's very quiet, but she's also taking meetings. She meets with a new character named Bail Doman, who in the books is very important. Bail Doman is kind of a chief informant / go-getter. He's a guy you send to go get things, and so he's one of the water people. So he lives on the sea. He's a sea folk, if you will.
Sea folk,
and so he really hates being inland all that much more. And so, but he's ferreting out information and bringing her stuff. In fact, there's this one scene early on where he brings her this, what looks like it's supposed to be a piece of, they call it Quindiyar. I used to call it Swindelyar when I read the books, but now I'm getting proper pronunciation. and I'm totally going to go with their pronunciation because what's in my head canon, it doesn't matter if it's how you say it. So this is this like, specific mineral / it's like stone, but it's stronger than metal. It's supposed to be utterly unbreakable. It's like adamantium for fantasy. And what ends up happening is he's like, and there's this little poem that was written on it, which I happen to have the words to, and she ends up paying for the poem and not buying the other thing because she's like, okay, well, that's the most important piece of information. Information, remember, to an Aes Sedai is way more important. So then they go, so that's her, and that's the situation, and she's still trying to do the machinations that she's got, and she's really trying to push him away, and there's this whole storyline that happens with her and Lan and whatnot, and they're figuring things out, but ultimately she kicks him.
Well, their bond was broken.
Yeah. So he's like, there's this whole point where she gets attacked by some Fades, and he almost dies in the process because not being bonded, he doesn't get any of those bonuses that he used to get, which was agility, knowledge, the ability to everything. He doesn't get any of that stuff, so he's stuck with just being himself again. And so she sends him back to the tower. Next, speaking about what's happening at the tower. If you remember the end of last season, she had warned them, send a message that the Reds need to go find a man named Mat Cauthon. So Liandrin's found him. So Mat, nobody knows this, is being interrogated in Tar Valon. Not at the tower, outside the tower, but it's a private place where the sisters go, and he's been captured. He's got a neighbor. Min is here. She apparently stopped by, got caught, and so she's in the little cage next to him. It's a room, and he does this.
It's actually quite the nice room for being held a prisoner, if I think about it.
No, totally. It's basically
there's a bed with a pillow and a blanket.
Well, but he Shawshanks his way into her quarters.
Shawshanks, he totally did.
Because he's hiding behind this dresser, and he's like using a spoon to try to whittle out these giant hewn rock stones to pull out. And eventually, he thinks he's getting out to the outside, and it's just the next room, and she's there, and they start talking. So also. Introduction of Donell Finn as the new Mat Cauthon. I got to tell you, I liked Barney Harris just fine. He was the actor who played Mat last season. And I don't know what reasons he's no longer with the show. But I genuinely liked Donell Finn a lot.
You said in the middle of watching that when we were reintroduced to him that he looked like he would be in your brain, like in your mind as you were reading it.
I couldn't imagine him better than this guy. The way he's acting, the way he's portraying him. And some people might say, oh, what's this the way... I guess the way the last actor did, it felt like he was haunted or like he wasn't happy or jovial. And even though the situation that they went through, in the books, Mat, even in his darkest, was still... He was being darkly funny. And he was always not optimistic, but like had a pithy comeback for something bad happening. And so this guy feels more like he lives in that style of universe. I don't know, he's just got a brighter disposition that I find more Mat-like. You know, and that leads to some stuff I hope in the future that happens with Mat, and we can get into that afterwards. So, but then, okay, so that's Mat, that's Moiraine, that's Lan, and then we get to the good ladies.
No, we still have Rand.
I know, but I'm
Or are you
saving him
saving
for
that for
last on
last? Okay.
purpose. Yeah, no. Good call though, because I'm telling you, I know you always want to know what's happening around. So then you get to the girls are in Tar Valon. Egwene, Nynaeve, they're both novices. You have novices accepted and then Aes Sedai. Those are the 3 levels. So they're still accepted, or they're novices. So they're wearing not only a white dress, but they generally walk around in these brown aprons that are kind of say, okay, we're still doing menial tasks.
It's funny you said they were brown. I think they were gray.
Sure. No,
we totally have this issue with colors, by the way, just to let you know. This is normal.
A third of a slate
what did
brown. Yeah, totally. Comment below. Tell us what color you thought the aprons were. Is the dress gold or is it blue? Anyways, sorry, that's an old comeback to things.
That was awesome, though.
No, totally. Nynaeve, it's so funny. Egwene really sums it up best, and I'm not going to get too deep into it. She essentially is like, because later on, as things go on, Nynaeve is really being belligerent. Like, she doesn't want to do anything. She's like, I came here for one reason.
She's just a brat.
She totally is. And it's funny because...
I want to slap her.
All the time.
It's like, she's awesome, but she needs to just stop.
Get over herself. No, for real. But so Egwene puts it once. She's like, the harder I work, the less good I'm doing. The less she works, the better she does. I don't understand. She's basically jealous. That's, by the way, when we meet a new character during this whole thing.
I don't blame her for being jealous, though.
No, I get it.
I don't know if you would call it jealous. He's just like, that's just. I'd be mad.
I think it's okay to say on the Family Channel. I think I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I would be. Very.
So we get to meet a new character, Elaine Trakand. Elaine Trakand, who is the daughter heir of Andor. Andor is, by the way, the country, one of the largest, most powerful country on the continent. There's other ones. There's Ilion and Kyrian and some other ones, but Andor's like the big boy. Andor is the... For lack of being, and forgive me for being self-centered, Andor is the USA. By the way, they're just as egotistical as we are. So that's kind of why I'm making that comparison. Come to find out, she says to Egwene, she's like, oh, I never thought I'd see one of our subjects. The Two Rivers is in Andor.
Which was forgotten about.
But in the books, they even classified like, oh yeah, but there hasn't been a tax collector in the Two Rivers from the kingdom in like... I don't know, 100 years. Like, they basically don't remember that they were are subjects of Andor. And so, but Elaine, you get to meet Elaine. She's very cool. By the way, she's a character who overall in the overarching is going to be very, very useful and very, very exciting to see grow and become.
She already seems really, really bright. Like, very...
she's very cool.
Intelligent.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Perrin, we find Perrin. Perrin is actually with the Shienarans. The Shienarans, if you remember last season, Tarman's Gap fell, and ultimately they were able to hold the city somewhat. And I think they actually, because of the women channeling, were able to kind of save Tarman's Gap even, or Tarwin's Gap. So what happens is, Perrin's going with the Shienarans, tracking down Padan Fain. Padan Fain's the guy with the knife, and he took him into the Shadar Logoth, that city and whatnot from last season.
Or he was the peddler with the lanterns.
To
be more specific. I knew the name,
for
but...
Beltane, yeah. He was the very beginning. But he's dirty, and they're chasing him. And he's leaving a wake of just destruction and death everywhere.
But why are they chasing him?
Why are they chasing him?
They're looking for the horn.
That's right.
Because he took it.
He stole the Horn of Valyr, which, by the way, most of this is based... A lot of this is taking from several books. That's the one thing you have to understand is they're condensing some stories, and I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with condensing the stories. And by the way, there's nothing that really I tripped over as a fan of the books until episode 3, and we'll get to that. So, because most of the events happening, I was like, okay, I get it. Because you have to smush events. So if an event happened in book 4, but it's part of the
totally
story.
Relates to book 1 or 2, you're going to have to smash it in there.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
They shifted in the story. And I'm okay with those kinds of changes because remember, I worked in film and TV. Those things make sense to me.
And you said the author that... We talked about this. The
Brandon
author
Sanderson.
that finished the books was brought in a few times to to consult and to be like, I need to put this in here.
Oh, trust me, as soon as I'm finished, and you guys should if you're interested in the Wheel of Time, go check out Brandon Sanderson's YouTube channel. Specifically, he has a podcast he does called Intentionally Blank, which is it's a writer's reference to the first page of a book, usually being left intentionally blank. And it's literally because during the season he talks about stuff. So as soon as I'm done, believe it or not, recording this, I fully have every intention to go over and listen to that podcast because I really want to, and I'll talk more next week about what Brandon Sanderson may have said. So again, getting not too far into this, getting too deep. So next was, Perrin on the search with the Shienarans ends up, you start noticing wolves are following them in the distance. There's a tracker we meet named Elias. Elias is a character from the books who he is what they call, later on you're going to find out, he's what they call a dream walker. So in this age of things happening, and they talked about this in Tar Valon, there's women being born with unprecedented power. When the numbers of Aes Sedai have just been dwindling, all of a sudden, boom, the pattern's spitting out Nynaeve, Egwene, women who can, Elaine, women who can really channel on a level they haven't seen in forever. So then likewise, people with talents, that's what the book calls them. Talents are things that are not necessarily wrought of the power, but they're sort of power tangential, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so this is one of those things where he's going to eventually be able to talk to wolves, and his eyes turn yellow. And as a wolf, you start to notice there's one scene where they go into a place where people were killed, and he sees the visions because his sense of smell is telling him the story. Mm. So the same way wolves can paint a picture, he's seeing everything as it happened and getting these visions. It's very interesting. That'll actually link to another ability later, which I'm really interested to see how they do, which is dream walking, which is the ability to actually go into the land of dreams, Teleran Riyadh, which is that's an interesting look into like the multiverse of fantasy. It's very cool. Again, Robert Jordan was doing some really cutting edge stuff storytelling-wise back in the day. So now we know where everybody is until we get to Rand, because remember, everyone thinks he's dead. We find out Rand has been holed up in Cairhien. He's got himself a girlfriend, and what he's been doing is...
Sorry. Rand looks like a little discount Eminem.
That's right. He
has shaved his head. Yeah. Those pretty curls were gone.
Totally. Well, because he's trying to hide
whatever.
There's a couple of people who, when they see him, are like, there's Aielman here. Like, he goes to see a swordmaster named Errol, who's in the sanitarium, and he's learning how to use a sword. So, because he had been talked about, in the books, he had been talked about who Errol was by his father. So, he just happened to track down where the guy was, and he's in the sanitarium. While he's in the sanitarium, someone else is there he wants to go see. That's Logain. And when he goes, so he manages to, there's this orderly, he gets to go see Logain freely, and Rand, the guy finds himself in an accident at Rand's hands.
He kind of hit his head a little bit.
Bro.
He tripped and fell and hit his head.
A lot.
With a fist.
Yeah, so much. So Rand gets reassigned to that new area, and and Logain, because come to find out, do you remember that moment in season 1 when they were walking through the town and Rand and Logain met eyes, and Logain was doing this crazy man laugh? Right? Okay?
And we knew he was looking at Rand, but we didn't, that time, at that moment, we didn't know.
No, and I should have, because I read the books, I should have known this. In this, you find out Logain can see even though he's cut off from the source now, he can still see, because he's been gentled, he can still see the outline and colors of a man who can channel. And according to him, Rand...
He was setting off fireworks.
Rand was bright. And he was like, oh my gosh. So he still thinks he's the Dragon Reborn. Logain does. And Rand's like, no, man.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Because Rand knows, without a doubt, he's the Dragon Reborn. So, one thing I will say too, a little callback to the books that I did like. Matter of fact, you know what? We're going to shift. That's the story. That's essentially the story we're seeing. There's another part that... So I want to save that for the part where because I'm going to talk about things we liked and things we didn't like. So let's shift over then. Let's start talking about the episode. What are some things you liked?
Well, I love this type of genre, so let's just go start there.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't have any preconceived notions how everyone's supposed to look, behave, and act. I already don't like half. There's already some personalities that I'm really having troubles with. What's her name? The Red.
Oh, Liandrin.
That's the other thing. Their names I can never remember their names, and that is really an issue.
I'm not going to lie. We got to choose.
I do, and I still don't know.
Right in front of me.
There's no one in costume, so I really can't. I know that's Matt.
Leandrin's played
Thank you, Leandrin.
Yeah,
okay.
played by Kate Fleetwood.
And see, she doesn't have blonde hair there, so how am I supposed to remind?
She doesn't.
Leandrin is really getting under my skin. Like, I want to punch her after I punch what's her name for not doing what she's supposed to do.
So Leandrin in the books doesn't actually show. I mean, she does show up early on, but she doesn't show up as early as she does in the series, and I know why. Because they didn't have 5 books to introduce her and sort of start to talk about her, so they throw her in really early. And I'm okay with that. But yeah, she's rough. But the only excuse they're giving us is that she's a red, and they've sort of established reds as
don't like men,
not so good, and definitely don't like dudes. There was a really cool scene with her though that I did like. There was a scene with her with this old man. You don't know who he is. And come to find out, it's right. It's her son, because she's long lived, and apparently, I believe her son is probably a symbol of a mistake she made in the past in terms, because remember she's very anti-men, but apparently at some point she must have loved someone and she gave birth to a kid. The thing is, she herself is long lived and she's nigh immortal, and her kid's not, and he's suffering from something, and Nynaeve stumbles upon it and the whole thing. But yeah, it's crazy. It was interesting. Go on. What else did you like?
I really do like this story.
I do too.
I really do like this story. Like I can't sit down and read because you've warned me. It's the detail.
We're
reading. We do like to read. I love to read. I do. But this sounds like one of those series I'm going to have to listen to.
So Robert Jordan was in.
It's inspired me to actually go and read the books. That's how much I'm liking this series.
Robert Jordan's a ridiculously detailed writer. Like, the guy is just deep when it comes to the writing, and I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of how the minutia was. So that's why the first couple books, once it gets rolling, it's actually okay. It doesn't get.
And you told me that too. You did tell me that.
So, but yeah. So okay. So what else did you like? Anything in particular stand out?
They really just, I feel like we are, and I don't know if they do this in the books, they are drawing out them finding themselves an awful lot. That's one thing I didn't like.
Got it.
Like, if Perrin could just shut up for 2 seconds,
sure,
and focus. I feel like the only one that is really paying attention to anything is
Egwene?
Yep, her.
I figured as much.
Her. Everybody else just kind of is like, whatever, I have this problem. And nobody wants to listen to an elder of any kind. Perrin doesn't want to listen to the other guy. Yeah. What's her name? Nobody wants to listen to anybody. So that's about the only thing I don't like. But otherwise, I think it's great.
But we're talking about things we like.
I'm sorry.
No, so I'm a big fan of a lot of how the visual representation of the One Power is being used, because they call it weaving, and I think I always thought of it as threads. They refer to it as threads in the book. They do a really great job of showing that magic here like that. Like, there's this one, like the moment I was talking about where really Nynaeve is being stubborn. She's being told and given instructions to do a certain thing. It's like filtering dirt out of water, whatever. And the lady does it. And she's holding her hands up, and you see, she's like, you take weaves of water, and you see this like blue-looking wispy stuff, and she's like an earth, and it's green wispy stuff, and then she mixes them together, and they sort of begin to
pours the clear water out.
Yeah, but it's dope because of just the way that they're doing it. Like, at one point, even Leandrin is trying to show what is it? Why do I need a sword when I can make one? And it's like, and becomes this air sword, and she's like just moving it around, and I'm like, that is so cool, you know. And you saw some of that last season with Moiraine.
I love during that whole scene. The one thing I did like was Nynaeve's attitude.
Oh, totally.
Because she doesn't explain. You have to drink. All she says, you have to drink the water before you leave.
That's right. Nobody can leave.
And because Nynaeve's so stubborn, she's like, okay. And drinks it. Now, we know what's in that water. Yeah. Because we just saw it all being cleaned up. Man, did she stomach it well.
Bro, that's how like hardcore she is. So one of the things I liked was, again, I like that representation there. They do this ceremony when it's the elevating ceremony from novice to accepted for Nynaeve, and I like the fact that they used the like sayings, and they went before the arches. The arches, which is this step you have to go through, they're gorgeously represented.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I'm like, was that what you would have pictured in your
Yes.
head when you were reading this? Okay.
So I would have actually probably thought of a little more of something more like a flat actual archway. These are big. These are like round tubular style, and they have a lot of engravings and stuff. Still very cool. And I'm
You feel like it works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where it may not be what I had in my head canon, but I'm willing to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's another thing I'm concerned about, but that's something I don't like. I'm worried that when we do read the books, because we're going to read them together, I'm worried that when we do read them, these are going to be the characters I see in my head. And I've kind of, if you look at the books are very clear in how they describe them. And I understand being diverse, and I understand the multicultural nature of wanting to do stuff that identifies with everybody. But I feel like some of the changes were unnecessary. So like and you know what? I don't want to shift too hard into it because the things we don't like.
Because we don't know what we have coming up as far as
Yeah.
what we don't like, because
Yeah, I get it. For me, my issues have to do with. So okay, let's get into the big thing for me that I didn't like.
Yeah, what didn't you like? Because I thought it was pretty cool.
Episode 3 does, like I just said, Nynaeve does this accepting thing, and she gets to go inside of each of these arches, and each of the arches represents. We called it like things I'm afraid of from my past, things I'm afraid of in the present, and things that potentially I'm afraid of in the future. Those are the 3 setups.
Her fears.
And she handles each one just fine, and roughly the way I remember it, more or less. The last one, however, she doesn't come back. And you're not supposed to be able to do that. Now, I understand building drama for drama's sake, but it's like, I feel like the writers didn't need to invent drama. If there's things you want to cut out or ways you want to connect tissue, fine. But when there's already a functional thing in the story, and you're telling that part of the story clearly, like Nynaeve going through the arches, why do you need... Oh, the other thing they change, and I get why they change it, you're supposed to go through the arches naked. They didn't do that. She's in her undergarment, which is this. That's as
close as
But at the same time, and the idea is you're only allowed. You have to go through with nothing, because when you go through, you have clothes, you have outfits, you have things, you have whatever. And you immediately go into that universe, and you are whatever. And you don't know what these universes are. But in the show, she goes to the future one and doesn't come back, and everyone's like, oh, she's dead, it's terrible, it's this and that. And you have to have all this drama and tension. And I'm like, guys, there's already drama and tension. Why did you have to add all of this? You could have just had the thing where she comes out, it maybe takes a little longer than it should, but she comes out just fine the way it does in the books.
And then still show us what she went through, though. I mean, I agree with that.
Sure.
What we saw in that arch could have been maybe what she saw, whatever, just to add drama for drama's sake, like you said. But if you're going to try to, I understand what you're saying. If you're going to try to stick to the book as much as possible, I'll give them that.
Sure.
You don't need to show that door closing and her being stuck. It could just you could have shown all that and still had her walk out.
Agreed. No, I agree with that, absolutely. And that's one of those things where people are like, well, you don't want to see the same story you've read. Yes, I do.
I want to see how they visualize.
I want to see the story I read. I want to see this brought to life in a way that's only ever been in my imagination. So stop getting crazy with it. All right, so we're going to have to do more. I want to do further discussion, but I want to hurry up and get this out of the way. There you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you have to begin knowing yourself. Let's get to some scores. I'm going to score all 3 episodes. Normally we do the big giant score on the screen. I'm not going to do that because there's 3 of them. My score for all 3, and I'll put them on. I'll literally put them all on the screen. Episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3. All 3 now. I'm going to say literally they go up in rising scale. Even though the last episode frustrated me, they do come back around. She does finally come out. I literally thought we were gonna have to deal with her being in the thing for a little longer, but I'm gonna do a 6 out of 10 for episode 1. I thought which is not a determination of how good or bad it was. It was how slow or it was. I'm gonna do a 7.0 for episode 2, and then I'm gonna do a 8.0 for episode 3. Now, why did episode that? Because again, once I got past that they weren't actually doing the thing that was upsetting me, the story happening in episode 3 is actually really good.
It is. It really is.
We get to meet the Shan-Chan. We get to do all kinds, and we'll talk more about all that stuff. But those are my scores. Okay, hang on one second. Now, what are yours?
This is where we're going to have issues with scoring with Beatrice, because we tend to go pretty close
No,
together.
I know.
We're not very much. The first episode for me, and I maybe it's because I rewatched the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I gave the first one an 8.
Okay.
I was very entertained. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, and there was new stuff coming in and all that. I mean, I remember it all. That was very exciting. The second episode, I gave it a 7 because I didn't. It was good. It just was for me. Okay. And the third one, I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Because I can't wait. That last scene when she comes out of the arches, like that's why I got the 8. Like right there. Like it was all good. And that's just like, yep, now you're the 8.
No, totally. For real.
So that's what I did.
Nice. All right. So let's go ahead now and look at let's talk about some other stuff that from the episodes that I thought. So the Seanchan I like, but I don't like. By that I just mean,
yeah, you were trying to explain that to me.
They don't describe the so if the character is Lady Suroth, I believe, and I could be wrong, and I got to double check this. Comment below if I'm wrong, because I know you guys love doing that. The Lady Suroth is described. I believe she's the one who ends up in the books with Matt, and she's described as diminutive and small. The chick in the throne with the big long nails. She's like a tall woman and Lady Suroth's supposed to be bald on one side of her head, and maybe it's a headdress she's wearing. I'm just like, who are these people? But go on.
One of them does have bald on one side.
I know, but I don't know who. But that's like the servant chick or something. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, when the little girl ran underneath the table.
Oh, very beginning.
In the very first episode, we got to see people with the nails.
Sure.
And then other people.
Right. So we know for a fact there's people who are good and there are people who are bad.
Do we know what happened to the little girl?
No.
She's missing with what's his name?
With Ishamael.
No. Well, I guess so.
Yeah, it's Ishamael. The guy, this actor here, Fares.
No, not him. The one that.
Oh no, she was taken by Pat and Fane. But I believe there in the very beginning first episode she's there.
Yeah, she's with him.
I think Fane brought her there, and then they found Fane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's also a guy. There's also a guy with the skirt frilly. The Shinaran thing, and he's dead later.
Okay, I was under the impression that he took the girl and ran, and everybody was chasing them for her.
Oh yeah.
That's the impression I got.
Right on.
Was that he took the girl from all of them, and that's why they all went. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, there you go. I hope everybody appreciates this deep dive look at the first 3 episodes. I'm excited.
I can't wait till next week.
I will admit, I'm excited to go through with it. I like what they've built. Shout out to Amar Chanda Patel, who is from Willow, and he was a Shinaran last season.
Great.
Yeah, he did really good. I liked seeing him as well. A lot of fun characters. I like Min's visualizations. Oh, there's a scene where Min, real fast, sees Matt seemingly stabbing Rand, and all I'm going to say, so I don't spoil anything for the future, is you need context. In the books, I know why it happens, so you need context.
Which I think is pretty cool that Min doesn't have the context. So like she can't. She's like almost forced not to say anything.
Yes, exactly.
Because she's like, I don't know what any of this means. So I'm not going to say that you're going to kill your friend.
For real. All right, guys, comment below. Let us know what you thought of the episodes. And hopefully you're watching this. Give it a watch, man. Amazon's doing a really good job when it comes to their fantasy stuff. They're definitely staking their claim as a source for that kind of material.
Also, Amazon, this is dropping in the UK differently than us. They're dropping the times all together. So for us, we got everything at 8 o'clock last night.
Yeah.
Where they're getting everything.
Right. Because
they got everything at midnight.
Because it's a global release.
Yes.
It's kind of the same way how we get it at midnight on the East Coast, and that's 3 a.m. on the East Coast, but it's through 12 o'clock midnight on the West.
Yeah.
Same thing, but on a global scale. So we get it.
So we get it 8 hours earlier.
Yeah,
8 hours earlier.
Yeah, we get it 8 o'clock.
4 hours earlier.
We get it 8 o'clock at night versus them who get it at midnight.
Yeah.
So it's pretty. So I'm excited by the fact we get to watch it in a normal evening time. A lot of fun shows doing that lately. Anyway. All right,
but
guys.
That's just for y'all to know.
We'll talk to you very again soon. Never forget.
Everyone loves a know-it-all.
Bye.
Bye.